Few seconds. Okay, the first speaker will be Gampiero Nani. He's from Symantec. We all know about Symantec. We know that it's a company very active in security. From some time ago, their name was kind of synonym of antivirus, maybe still synonym of antivirus these days. And Gampiero Nani is Senior Government Affairs Manager. He is representing Symantec and its public policy agenda in Europe, Middle East, and in Africa. So let me give the floor to Gampiero Nani.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So yes, my name is Gampiero Nani. I'm responsible, among other things, about the African countries for government affairs, and so that means, policy in the first place for cybersecurity, and also obviously the relationship with the governments, and all that goes with the this activity we can contribute to with governments, except the commercial one. I'm not a salesperson. We have salespeople, obviously, in the region. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is the cybersecurity as a journey and the policies that will allow you to make cybersecurity a cybersecurity posture, so the way you approach cybersecurity and the way things can work for you in a better way. A few words about Symantec. Yes, Symantec used to be the antivirus company. Antivirus, though, is only one very small part of what cybersecurity is about. Cybersecurity is much more complex. And by the way, Symantec does quite a lot of other things. Symantec is the 4th largest software company in the world, which sometimes surprises people. This map here shows the fact that we are a global company, obviously, and we have an internet network of sensors, probably about 60 million sensors around the internet, where we capture and observe all the threats that the internet presents. And then we analyze them, and then every year we provide a report. And what I'm going to do here for the first few minutes, I'm going to show you a few findings from this report. Actually, our ITU speaker earlier showed a couple of slides exactly from that report. In fact, I thought, oh my God, he's doing my presentation here. You only had two. I have a few more, but it's really interesting to show. This is a report, by the way, that you can go online and download for free from our website. It's a very interesting reading, actually. This refers to 2013 because every year we produce the report for the year before. 2013 was identified as the year of the mega breaches, which means a mega breach is a breach that exposes more than 10 million identities, 10 million identities. I think we had 8 of them in 2013 worldwide. But the other items that are emerging as a trend in this case are ransomware, I'm talking about that, cyber espionage, mobile, of course, which especially in a continent like Africa will be an important element, and then the Internet of Things. So, the ability to have sensors on objects, on things, and manage them through internet protocol addresses. This is 2013. You see, in the last few months, there were 26, 20, and 26 mega breaches, or large breaches. 8 of them, as I mentioned, were over 10 million. And, but altogether, they exposed a huge amount. You can see the number on top, 159 million identities exposed for those 26 breaches and so on. So hundreds of millions of identities exposed. This is an interesting one. You think about hackers. Well, hackers are only 1/3 of the problem. Only 34% of these breaches are due to hackers. Everything else is, all the things you see there. So, accidental disclosure, theft of the equipment, and also insider theft. That's a big problem. Being able to stop valuable data from going out of the organization is an important one. What are they after? Real names, birth dates, everything you see there, email addresses, username and passwords. Stunning. 2012 to 2013, 91% of targeted attacks increase. Targeted attacks means I am attacking you because it's you and because I want your stuff. And that's the worrying bit. There is a lot of other random junk that goes around in the internet, but the targeted attacks are the ones that really should worry everybody. Industry, government first. Think about it. Size of organizations, 1/3 of the organizations are small. If you think I'm too small, nobody is interested in me, think again. That's not the case. Everybody thinks of everybody else. Interesting, this one. Who is at risk? Personal assistants. If you want to hack an executive data, go to the personal assistant. That's what they do. Web-based attacks, 568,000 web attacks blocked in 2013 per day. I repeat, per day. That's a stunning thing. Ransomware I was mentioning. So you have you know what it is. You have your laptop. At one point it says you have access some illegal sites. We are going to fine you by so much money. It looks like an official kind of message from an official agency. In this case, it's Department of State or whatever. It's not. Obviously, one out of so many people will think, yes, I did go to this. And so they actually pay without any assurance that then their laptop will be unblocked. Mobile threats. Android is the preferred platform for attacks, as you see. And then mobile user at risk. Cybercrime in the past 12 months, 38% of people have experienced that worldwide. However, 50% don't use any basic precautions about their mobile phones. And that's an interesting one. With computers, most people have some precautions. With mobiles, not so much. It's a bit of a strange attitude. And then Internet of Things. We know that this is possible. It's happened. Some has been exaggerated. Reports of your fridge sending malware around, that's a bit too much. That's not the case. Okay? But Internet of Things is one thing that is a problem. So as I said, you can download this from our website. So this is really to set the scene about what we're going to say today. Cybersecurity is a journey. It starts from, probably a stage of unawareness of things and then all the way to a stage of full awareness and full precautions to be taken. The reality is the ICT today is so complex, it's getting so complex, it's so hyper-connected, a high volume of data are generated, and of course, because of this, this equation, high connectivity, high complexity, high volume of data has one result. What is the result? It is high vulnerability. So we have to deal with that, and that's where we are. And so if you want to create resilient organizations or nations or, governments, cybersecurity should be part of the design at the beginning. It has been calculated that if you do that, eventually it's going to cost you 20 times as much. We all know the economy trends, cloud, mobile, etc., smart city, big data. All this is only one thing, they have only one thing in common, risk, and risk has to be managed. In the end, cybersecurity has become a main public policy issue, a theme. All governments are now, looking at that. They are legislating quite heavily. Why? Because we had a number of high-profile attacks. A famous one was, one thing that gave a big turn to things was when the NSA scandal happened, the Snowden revelations. Even the German Chancellor Merkel was hacked in her phone. So that really changed things in a very speedy way, especially in Europe. But, Europe doesn't mean anything. It's a global world, so it's really, we have to talk about without boundaries, think about without boundaries. What are the bad guys after? Data. Data is the new currency in the digital economy, and so data has to be protected. And you have to think of shifting the focus from your device to actually the data that is in the device when it's at rest and also when it's in transit, so the interactions that you have there. One important item is then the active intelligence. It's no longer about antivirus and defending things passively. You have to be proactive. Proactive, and that means a lot of intelligence, and I mentioned before the ISTR report, to understand your enemy. That's the first, is the first condition in order to make things work. And so it's not about like a vaccination. You do a vaccination and you're fine with an antivirus. No, it's about really, it's more like a DNA analysis. So it's an analysis in depth that will prevent things, because obviously also you can correlate events. If you have a big incident and you had a certain number of events prior to that, next time you have the same incident, the same kind of events, you can think that something serious is happening. And finally, the private-public partnership, so the ability to between private and public sector to cooperate and to provide that kind of exchange of information that will be key to all this discussion. So what should a country do? Well, once there is awareness, it's about legislation, it's about regulation, it's about policies. And so establishing authorities, establishing procedures, certs, for instance, which is one of the items in all this discussion. Critical infrastructure. This is more and more vulnerable. We have more and more incidents about that. I will talk about that just later. Intelligence, and then educate people. And educate people, because the attitude of people is everything in an organization, and also build capacity, so build skills. Symantec is now starting a program of building skills. We're starting a pilot in the US. I'm discussing with the ITU and with the CTO, so the Commonwealth, about how to export that program of education of people to put in cybersecurity jobs. And I think we can do something interesting in Africa in that sense. And then invest. In the end, it's about investing. If it's a problem, you want to fix the problem, and one way to do that is investing. As I mentioned, legislation is getting more and more strict. There are obligations, for instance, the EU is legislating about data protection, and it's saying if an industry or a government have a data breach, they have to notify the authorities. If the organization has not put in place enough measures to avoid this kind of breaches, they will be fined. So they will get a fine with up to 5% of their global revenue. 5% of global revenue, that's a bomb, I was mentioning, well, I'll skip this is the World Economic Forum model for cyber resilience, which says, organizations go through a certain level of stages. The most important thing you cannot legislate about is and somebody mentioned this before, is the leadership. Only organization with a leadership that is visionary enough to draw that attention to the whole organization and to cascade, to educate the people in the organization will be, towards the high end of this scale. Now, all this is an asymmetric challenge. So the attackers, I don't know if you can see, there is some, the attackers have a big advantage because, first of all, you don't know them. You don't know where they are. They don't need to expose themselves. They can be in any country they want. So it's not location dependent. The attribution is not easy. How do you actually say it was that organization, that internet address that did this? But even if you can attribute things, then prosecution is absolutely almost impossible. And so that's the problem in all this. There is no clear jurisdiction. There is no legislation about that. So that's why it's asymmetric. I mean, the defenders have to, first of all, they have to defend everything, and they have to defend every attack. The other ones need to be successful only once, and that's it. If you're a defender, you can't really win. You can draw at most if you block everything. When I was flying down to Mauritius, the long flight of London to Paris to Mauritius, I was thinking about the presentation, I was thinking about this, and I had this image, and I thought, cybersecurity is like a football game where the defending team has a goalkeeper, and that's it. The other ones, the attackers, have a lot of forwards, the best in the world, lots of them with lots of balls, and they're shooting at you, and you don't know, you don't even know where they come from. If you don't have intelligence, they come from the dark. You have no idea where they come from. And that's it. That's your situation. All you can do is really try to block everything. But if you block, if you let one go, you're done. They won. You lost. And you can't really draw anymore. You're just 1-0 forever. And by the way, asymmetry will grow before it decreases, because at the moment, the bad guys are very sophisticated. In some cases, they're state-sponsored, and it's a difficult game. So we need to put the act together in order to get this asymmetry back on track. How long do I have? 5 minutes, okay. Critical information, critical infrastructure. This is the definition of the EU in terms of the legislation. You can see whatever is critical infrastructure. There have been very high-level, high-profile incidents about critical infrastructure, Stuxnet, Dragonfly, etc. They all went after critical infrastructure elements. In the smart cities, that's all critical infrastructure. Smart cities are very vulnerable because everything has to be again conceived from the beginning with cybersecurity in mind. CERT, okay, everybody spoke about CERT today. I'm not going to go into that, but obviously it's one element within the whole strategy. And then mobile protection. That's a key one, especially in a continent like Africa, but everywhere as well. So these are the headlines in the last few months. It's all bad news. It's only bad news. Rogue download alert. The apps take data without permission. So we're totally exposed. So how do you fix that? Well, you have to take all the measures you need to take. There is a privacy issue. You can have security without privacy, but you can't have privacy without security. So you have to balance. What do you do? Where do you go? So privacy, the issues of privacy are really felt at the moment. One good news among bad news, the UK military, so the RAF, so the aviation, gave iPads to their pilots. They use Symantec, it's good news for Symantec as well. But the point is, you have to trust someone, and you can't just not do mobile because it's dangerous. Make the appropriate measures to make that happen. I think what I want to do is, I'll skip these because these are bad headlines, but I want to provide, since I only have now 2 minutes, so I'm going to skip all this. I want to give some information about Africa. Again, from the ISTR report, I will give some data about African countries, not all of them, some of them. Take all these are the countries I have data for, but I can get more if someone is interested. So I'm sorry for those that are missing. Cyber threats in Africa. So the ranking of each country in terms of share in global threats, okay, as an origin. So you see the numbers. They more or less go probably with the maturity of countries, right? Maturity of the cybersecurity. If you take this one, so source of cyber threat, again, take Mauritius, since you are here, 32nd in terms of code rank for malicious code, 39th on spam, 116 for phishing, and 96 for bot. And so on, source of cyber attacks, again, all the numbers you see here, network attacks, web attacks, malicious code and spam. So this is all information. Numbers might look small, obviously, but this is on a worldwide basis. So 0.4% for Nigeria means of the worldwide element. So it's really about understanding that although this is small, it's going to be bigger because things are progressing in that way. The good thing about probably the African countries is that you're still on time probably to get the appropriate measure now, as opposed to countries that are more developed in terms of cybersecurity. They have to catch up, they have to patch, whereas starting from the beginning with a situation where there is not much going on is probably a big advantage in that sense. Conclusions. Well, there's only one conclusion. Cybersecurity is here to stay. So all we have to do is to make sure that we understand that this is a problem, and to make sure that we know how to make things better and create all the conditions in terms of educating people, in terms of tools, in terms of procedures that will make this a journey, a positive journey, as opposed to a panic journey where you have to patch things and go frantically trying to repair damages. Okay, so think cybersecurity from the beginning in whatever development you will be involved. And this is the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You think 7 seconds.
I have 7 seconds.
C'est qui passe?
C'est Narayan. Thank you, Nani. Now we are going to talk about collaboration between SAT and law enforcement. For this, we will welcome Inspector Narayan. Narayan is coordinating law enforcement for Africa SAT. And Narayan is a fellow British Computer Society Chartered Information Technology professional. He is currently Chief IT Security Market Intelligence Cell Central Bank. And he used to be head of IT unit for Mauritius Police. So please welcome Narayan for his presentation.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Are you there? Yes. Thank you. So I thank AFRINIC, I thank Africa Third for giving me this opportunity to present. I'll be talking on identifying areas for collaboration between CERT and law enforcement authorities, of course, to combat cyber criminals. I'll be talking a bit more out of experience. I've been in this business of investigation for long now, 25 years in the police, out of which 15 years in digital investigation, cybercrime investigation. And I've witnessed the creation, the setting up of investigative units for digital investigation. I've seen the setting up of certs, and still I can say in the African region we have a long way to go. We have countries that don't even have, not yet, set up proper investigative units at the level of law enforcement. And we do even have countries not having a proper cert, right? At national level, I mean. So out of experience, I'll be talking a bit of how these units function and des lacunes, comme on dit en français. Je parle aussi le français. Alors, s'il y a quelqu'un qui veut poser des questions, toujours en français.
I speak also French, so if you want to ask questions in French, no worry.
I'll be speaking out of experience. A few things out of my slides there. You will notice that day by day, we have more and more phishing attacks. We have more and more attacks in the financial sector. Of course, the business of cyber criminals is for earning money, right? So the financial sector is being targeted. We have hacking taking place. Now, going beyond that, recently we had the attack on JP Morgan in the US, where the purpose of the attack, why JP Morgan was attacked, you will see different views on the net, political. Some will say the motive is political. Some will say that it is just hacking to have data for benefits, financial benefits. So we are in an era where we can have cyber disasters. On my slide there, DDoS attacks at national level. Not for cyber warfare, right? Now, different countries, they have their own agenda. And when countries are attacked, you see that there are other countries are being pinpointed. And also the common cyber attacks like viruses, and to add, cyber terrorism is also quite alarming. So all these make us understand if we have all these types of attacks, if we have cyber criminals behind, then who are those who are taking care of for the victims? On one side, we have the law enforcement, very often the police or other organization. The police will be mostly on the reactive part when people come to complaint, when they have recorded attacks, when they are sustaining loss. So people come to report, and police will be almost on the reactive part. So investigating, trying to find the culprit, which is not an easy task when you have the cross-border crimes, right? On the other side, you have the CERT. The CERT are doing wonderful work, analyzing, getting data on the trends, very much technical. But then we also see that there are common things in these two areas, the law enforcement and the CERT. So depending also the CERT, where it is situated, in some countries you have CERTs under the Home Affairs. You have under Homeland Security, you can have different CERTs in a country. You can have CERTs in companies, institutions. But talking at national level, search does, like on the preventive side, trying to analyze the different types of attacks coming on the country in the different areas, and why, the question is, why do we not have the collaboration between law enforcement and search, right? So search can be private entities, or they can be government institution, right? And the government institution, but very often we notice that search, they work mostly independently, right? And on the other side, the law enforcement, they carry on the business of, investigating, trying to get the culprit. But it's wise thinking of why we don't collaborate, the search and the law enforcement, when we know the mission is for both to go after those cyber criminals, right? So that's why today the topic is identifying areas for collaboration. So we see here the common mission, right? Combat cyber criminals, study the subject and get trained to recognize innovative technological crime, know the trend of cybercrime, acquire tools to analyze and combat attacks, prevention, doing prevention, create awareness, the population, help the population by rapid response to assist victims. These are the common mission of both law enforcement and CERT. Action in line with existing laws. Of course, they operate within the existing laws, but then also they identify what are the lacunes, what are the constraints in the law. And then the network with overseas counterparts for cross-border issues. So these are the common missions that we see. Broadly, I put a few. And then one major thing that happened in investigating cybercrime is the jurisdiction issue. So the culprits, the fraudsters, or the cyber criminals, we'll say, they have fairly identified the constraint of jurisdiction. They know that they place their website in one country, they operate from another country, and it will be difficult to bring them to court because the same law does not apply I mean about extradition or the criminal law in the different countries. So their culprits, their fraudsters, they know that fairly well. So that's why you will see that very often the phishing attacks and all happen worldwide. It happens cross-border, so it's difficult to go back, to trace them, and to bring them to court. I was talking about the collaboration. So with time now, we have come to know the different types of attacks happening, the law enforcement agencies, research, but then it doesn't stop there. That's why I'm talking about collaboration, because there are always innovations. There are things happening in the underground where the cyber criminals are innovating, right? Here on this slide, I have put one example, the boiler room scam. What is a boiler room scam? If you go on the net, if you have access to just type boiler room scam, you will see that there are families that have been destroyed, that there are husbands that have invested all their money in that scam, which is called boiler room scam. What it is, people has been, long back, boiler room was used earlier was used to canvass people at the time of election, right? It was like a pressure putting on people through phones from a single room. Then this has been innovated into canvassing people, targeting people to invest in stock, to invest in shares. And they put a certain type of pressure on people that it become alarming for them. They have to invest instantly, and people get trapped with the arguments, and they start investing, and the next day they have to invest more, the next day they have to invest more, finally they lose all their capital. So this has been the boiler room scam in the past. This was done through telephones. Nowadays, the same scam is being taken on board now through internet. So now they are targeting investors. Of course, there are a lot of phishing happening before, a lot of phishing where they go into the mails of people, they know the potential, they know the business activities of people, and then they target these guys. What they do, they will target them to invest in stock, to invest in companies where sometimes the shares has no value or the shares are very minimal. So they happen to target these guys, they happen to convince them to invest, and finally, you know what happened. So if you type boiler room scam on the net, you will see how damaging that was through telephone only. Now imagine with a rapid connectivity, with the help of internet, how it has already started. It has already started, and I'm sure it will grow. That's why the issue today is why we people, CERT, law enforcement, we don't sit together and see what's happening in the underground. So investigating cybercrime, as I've said earlier, we are having a lot of phishing. Lot of people are having phishing attacks. If we ignore, it's okay. But those who happen to click on the links, those who happen to give information, a lot of people just do it. They do it by ignorance. They just do it because they feel that their interests, so just click on these links, go into these the connections, and then finally they get trapped, right? Then, after money has been transferred, money mules has been recruited, money get transferred to money mules, and finally, money laundering, and these guys, they just get out with their money, right? And you trace back, the IP address take you into one country where it is unreachable, right? Anonymity, new tricks in online crimes, all these are the challenges, right? I've said the legal framework, not all countries have the legal framework to investigate, to bring people to court under cyber law, and the jurisdiction limitations. So all these challenges makes it also an issue where we have to consider that we have to collaborate, law enforcement and the CERTs. So I have 5 minutes. I'll try to just go a bit faster. So the mission for law enforcement and for CERTs, they have common mission, but they have also very distinct things that they do, right? So out of the distinct things that they do, like the police, they will very often, right, concentrate on digital evidence, going for handling of exhibits, trying to get the culprits, executing. So these are the distinct things that they will be doing. On the other side, you have the search, that they have their own distinct things where they have a lot of system putting in place, analyzing, they put honeypots or whatever just to, get the trend, know what type of attacks is happening in the country. So why these two bodies not sit together at a certain point in time, discuss about these distinct things that they do, and then come forward with action plan. So I've here put a few photos also where we have been working with police, gendarmerie. We have trained, myself and other people, we have been training police and gendarmerie in Burkina Faso, in Benin, and like that we have been doing a lot of interactive work with police, with law enforcement. The last time was in Djibouti, right? So we keep on, trying to upgrade this law enforcement and the CERT so that at the end of the day, we can say that we have institutions at the back. We have institutions backing the citizen. We have institutions taking care of the citizen. And finally, with experience from the law enforcement, from my background of police, I will say that this fraud triangle is very important. When you people sitting at the CERT or even at the investigation, cybercrime investigation in an office, it's not only thinking about technology. You must think about the person, the people behind the crime. It is not only technology. What does create that motive for committing cybercrime? This is also important. We are talking of people here, right? Technology is there. People are using the facilities, the technology as an opportunity, right? They have the bandwidth, they have the connectivity, right? They are using that. There are the vulnerabilities on the different systems that they identified, so they attack through that. This is an opportunity. But then what creates that motive for them to commit cybercrime, right? The motive is something that we have to discuss. We have to analyze in a criminological perspective, right? Why people commit cybercrime, because this is growing, this feature is growing, right? And then the rationale behind. It has always been like that. When we look at society, the different aspects of sociology, right? You see why people behave in a different way, right? Why all people are not being like a good computer engineer. Why some, they act differently after coming out of university with a degree of computer engineering, right? Why they act differently, why they commit crime. So we have to also understand that it's not only working on the technological part, right? So we have to see the rational, the society, and the social psychology of people that makes them to commit crime. So I think I will end with this. I don't have more time, so thank you for your attention.
Yeah, it has to be somewhere here. Thank you. Thank you, Narayan. Now we keep working on our journey about security posture. Now we are going to talk about building a unified response to cybercrime. And this will be presented by Mr. Foy Shiver. Foy Shiver is Deputy Secretary General of AFRINIC21. Foy Shiver is President and CEO of Woodstock Clinical Data System. And like I said, Deputy Secretary General of AFRINIC21. AFRINIC21 is Anti-Phishing Working Group and one of the founding director of EPVG EU. Its European Foundation headquarters in Barcelona. And Mr. Foy is also part of the STC initiative. STC stands for Stop, Think, and Connect. So please help me welcome Mr. Foy Shiva for his presentation. And we are just implementing something. We stopped, we were thinking about something, and next step we will connect. So be patient, just a little bit. It happens.